Hi, this is the Virtual Channel Network. I'm Lisa London, and welcome to Inside Casting. Well, I had the good fortune of being born into a Hollywood family. My father is television director Jerry London, and he directed everything from Hogan's Heroes, Brady Bunch, Partridge Family, Kojak, $6 Million Man, and then he became the king of the miniseries and directed Shogun and Chiefs and Ellis Island. And so I got to travel all around the world and go to all these different countries, and I got to watch all these incredible actors work. And I just loved listening to all their stories and hearing how they became successful and how they developed their talent. And then one day I was working as a production assistant for my father on a pilot that he did called Hotel for Aaron Spelling. And he let me sit in on all the casting sessions. And lo and behold, I had an opinion about everybody. So what happened is the casting directors at that time were actually Lynn Stallmaster and Tony Howard and Lisa Freiberger. And Lynn had a very successful company, and he offered me a job 3 months later. And that's how I started in casting. But when I actually got started, what happened was I realized this was a natural fit for me because I really loved actors. I loved hearing about how they became successful, and I really enjoyed everything about them and their journeys. So that's how I got started. Well, one of the ones that it was really fun a casting experience was Hannah Montana. We did the pilot, and that was an amazing experience because we saw over 1,000 girls for the role that Miley Cyrus ended up getting. And we saw girls from all over the country. We auditioned them either through video, through links. They came in our office. So that was an amazing experience because finding Miley was just a great joy, and putting together the other people in the cast, like it was actually our idea to have her father play her real dad in the show, Billy Ray Cyrus, and then putting in Emily Osment and Jason Earls, who's an amazing physical comedian. So that was one that was a great joy, putting together a show that became such a huge phenomenon. And another one that I really enjoyed, I've done a number of movies with Happy Madison Productions, which is Adam Sandler's company, and we did House Bunny, and House Bunny was so fun because you got to put together this great, talented cast of amazing women. And from Anna Faris, who was in it and was one of Emma Stone's first movies, and Catherine McPhee's first movie, and Kat Dennings, who've all gone on to have hugely successful careers. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about casting is I get to see, when I'm reading a project, I get to see how all these people fit together, how all the talent fits together, and I really enjoy the process of either discovering new talent or actually putting together a great ensemble. It's a very gratifying feeling when you meet an actor and you actually just know that they are going to be super successful. And as a casting director, I can tell you guys, people ask me this all the time, like, how do you know? And I can only tell you that it's something that I have this innate ability to perceive. And I know when somebody's going to be a star and going to go on to have huge success. I mean, it happened with Miley. And it's a funny story because I remember when we auditioned her, and there was a number of auditions. It wasn't like one audition, right? And I remember that I leaned across the desk in the producer session, across an entire table. I threw my body across the table, and I said, that girl's going to be a star. And he said, yep, I think you're right. So it's very satisfying. when that happens. And it might not happen on the show or the movie that I cast. I put Jennifer Aniston in one of her first films, Leprechaun, which, she goes on to have huge success from Friends and after that. And Emma Stone, when we gave her one of her first jobs in House Bunny. And then they go on to have huge success. And, I feel like maybe was a little bit part of it, which is very exciting. And I always feel proud. Well, what really excites me about talent is when I find somebody, a couple of things. One is their passion. One is their persistence. One is their talent. And one is their spirit, who they are when they come in the room, they have that thing about them, their passion, and they're just really want to be there, and their talent comes through, and they're open, and they're willing to be directed, and they're willing to take notes, and they process it. And you have to really prepare when you come in for an audition. I tell actors, it doesn't matter whether it's one line or you have a whole scene, you got to work on it. You got to do your homework, and you have to really do your research, because that's part of what it takes to make it as a successful actor, I think, in this business, in this day and age. As an example, I have a co-star role that I'm working on right now for a series. A co-star, it's probably a couple of lines. I got over 1,500 submissions for this part. And I bring that up because there's so many actors and actresses out there, but you really have to persist, and you have to show us that passion, whether it's for 3 lines or it's an entire scene. And you have to just go for it, and really, you got to be open. When you come in a room, you got to be open to receive the direction, and you got to be able to process it. And all of that is part of, for me, I think, doing your homework and really researching a project. Because in this day and age, you can Google anything on the internet. You can find any show. You can research who's the producers, who's the director, and figure out what's the tone or the flavor of the show. So there's no excuse to come in and go, well, I haven't seen the show. Oh, I don't know what this is about, because then that shows that you're not prepared. So when I'm really excited when I meet somebody who comes in and they actually have done the work, and they either know something, about the show, and they bring their talent, and they're very open to what direction they're given in the room. Right, so one of the very important things besides your talent when you come into an audition is your personality. Because there are plenty of people who get started and they don't have a ton of credits, but they have an amazing personality. Because that's part of it. Your charisma, your charm, that's all part of being an actor and portraying that when you come in a room. And I'll tell you a funny story. So I was doing a movie for Happy Madison called Grandma's Boy, and I met Jonah Hill, came in to audition for one of the lead guys. Now, he had done one movie, I Heart Huckabees, which had come out, and then he had a role in 40-Year-Old Version, but it had not come out yet. And Jonah and I had this great rapport, and you could just tell he's so charming, he's so funny, and he is so talented. And so, but he wasn't right for this part. I knew that the producers, this wasn't quite what they were going for. So I called my producer, who's an awesome guy, Alan Covert, and I said, hey, there's this great guy, and you're going to want to meet him, and you're going to end up writing a part for him because he's so funny and talented. And he said, okay, bring him in. So he came into the room. He read for the role that we knew he wasn't going to get, and when he left, the producer said to me, yep, you're right. We're going to make him this part, and we're going to make this part bigger. And so that was an instance of a guy who just charming. You could see his talent. We had a great rapport, great personality, and he ended up getting this part in Grandma's Boy, and then, look, he's gone on to have a very hugely successful career. I think it's very important when you're first starting out and you're starting to be an actor that you work on every aspect of what you're good at, whether that's singing, dancing, acting, doing improv, doing stand-up, whatever it is. And being in a class gives you that opportunity to try new things and to experience working with other people. And it's a great training ground. It's a great place to say, oh, hey, look, I can do this. And it's a great place to learn. And I think when you're beginning, you want to do whatever you can do to even get better. So that's why I always put I think training is really important for a lot of actors, especially when you're starting. And even as you're going through it and you're doing it for a while, being in a class, I always say, gives you the opportunity to try new things that you've never had the opportunity to try before. And in this day and age, you guys, if you look at it, there's so many actors who sing and they dance and they act. And look at the actors on Glee. So the more you can do, the better chances I think you have. You know, to me, the most important things that you can do as actors are, number one, always do your homework. Do your homework, do your research before you come into an audition. It's easy these days, like I said, in the internet. You can go on IMDb, you can research any producer, director, casting director. You'll know the tone, the flavor of the show, what kind of movie are they making, just by doing your research. So that's number one to me, that you guys can control. There's no reason to come in an audition and say, oh, I don't know this television show. I've never seen it before. And even if it's a pilot, you can still research the players and who's doing it, so you'll kind of get the tone and what kind of projects they've done in the past. So that's number one to me. And number two is making a strong choice. You've got to go for it. You can't be afraid. You have to read your material, work on it, study it, and really go in there and make a strong choice. And that's something you guys get to use your creativity, and you get to do what you want to do. Those are your 5 minutes, your 10 minutes to come in a room and really shine. And we, as casting directors, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for you to be great and come in a room and do fabulous. So those two things you can totally control. And one of the things that I always tell people, to me, which is very important, is knowledge is power. So the more you know, the better you do. So those two things, I think, are definitely very important, and you as actors can control them. And the third one is your attitude. When you come in for an audition, what kind of attitude do you have? Are you excited to be there? Are you happy that you're going in on an audition? And hopefully you're not stuck in your past rejections or things that maybe you haven't gotten the job. You really want to go in there with a positive attitude and treat each audition as if it's a new one, brand new one, and hey, I'm going to go in and do the best I can do. And if you guys do that every time, then you'll be happy with yourself, whether you get the job or not. And that's what's really important. You know, guys, there's tons of reasons why actors don't end up getting jobs. And we go into a number of them in the book, but as an example, I'll tell you guys, I read tons of actors, I read tons of talented, really good actors every day. And you know, I could have a session with a producer and we could read 50 great actors for a role, and then, you know what? The next day it changes. Somebody goes, okay, you know what? We can't have this to be Caucasian anymore. He's got to be an ethnic guy. I mean, I've been in a session where people have said, you know, okay, we were reading girls, and they said, no, we don't want a girl. Now we want the role to be a guy. So it gets to be kind of nebulous in a way sometimes, and actors get very into their heads, and they think, oh, I've been rejected so many times. But you could be giving the most amazing audition of your life, doing a fantastic job, and actually the reason that you don't get the job has nothing to do with you. You did do a great audition, and that's the most important thing to remember, that if you did a great audition, then that's what you should walk away with, because us as casting directors will always remember you if you did a really great audition. And that's what's really important, because you can't control any of the other factors that go on with making a movie, a television show, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a pilot, a movie, doesn't matter. You have to do the best audition you can do every single time, and that's what matters. Whether you have an agent or manager to get on our radar doesn't matter. So you can have an agent, obviously, call us and say, hey, I want you to meet so-and-so, or you can have a manager call us. But let's say you don't have an agent or manager. How can you get on our radar? You send us a picture and resume. You can let us know, hey, I'm out there, I'm new to town, I'm just got a job, I'm doing a piece of theater, I'm doing a showcase. You just have to communicate and put it out there by either sending your picture and resume, sending a postcard. I mean, I'll tell you guys a funny story, okay? Years ago, I was doing a pilot. I was working late at night, and a delivery guy, came in, and he delivered me a pizza. And I was like, I didn't order a pizza. Mind you, it was 8:30. I was kind of hungry, so that wasn't nice of somebody, right? And this delivery guy to me said, hey, look under the pizza. And I was like, what? And so I looked under the pizza, and underneath was this guy's picture and resume, in one of those sealed kind of clear envelopes, right? And I was like, wow, okay, now that's pretty clever. Actually, this actor, that's how I couldn't end up not bringing him in for an audition, because I thought, okay, that's a pretty clever way to get to meet me. So that's a crazy example, but I'm saying there's no impossible ways not to get yourself out there and get yourself to meet casting directors and agents and managers at all. There's plenty. The only thing that I would tell you guys in terms of going too far is just, you don't want to harass a casting director. You don't want to send like a picture every week. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to show up at their office every week and going, hey, do you have an audition for me? That would probably be going too far, But you definitely need to persist. And if I've heard stories of actors who've, gone to casting director's office and dropped off a picture and resume, or came in and brought the casting director coffees or whatever. I'm not saying that's what you need to do, but there's all kinds of ways to go about, getting yourself out there. But you definitely don't want to go too far and start harassing them, because we don't like that. Yes, I wrote this book with my very good friend, Rochelle Goodrich, who was an actress and then has a huge background in production. And her and I one day were talking, and I said to her, I've been thinking about writing a book, and I want to help actors because I get asked all the time by parents and kids and grandparents and kids who graduate college and even 30-year-olds, how do I get started? So Rochelle and we got together, and she said, that's a great idea. And we wrote this book, and this is called From Start to Stardom, and it's a casting director's guide for aspiring actors. And it's really a great, amazing, simple-to-read guide that tells you everything from the beginning of how to get started, how to get an agent and manager, how to make a resume. It tells you all the steps to auditioning. It tells you things about getting discovered. How do you go about doing that? And it even gives you inside tips on what goes on behind the casting director's doors, and tells you why you might not even get a call back and what happens. And it's really simple, easy to read, and I'm very proud of it. When Rochelle and I were working on this book, one of the things that we wanted to do was make it not just something you read, but also something that you actually do. We really wanted to make it a hands-on book. So we wrote these worksheet pages so that you could actually read something and then apply it. And we didn't want to just have you just reading and then not doing anything. So, for example, when we put in a resume, how to make a resume, we put in a resume template so you could just follow along and figure out exactly how to make a resume. And then on the photography, like let's say you're going to shoot your headshots, right? So we gave you a workbook page on, hey, let's pull out things in our closet that we really like and let's take pictures with our smartphones and let's see how these clothes are going to look on us before you actually go to the photographer. And this way, because nowadays your pictures are, when you see them online, they're just like these 1-inch thumbnails. You can actually get a sense of what the casting director is seeing before you go and take your headshots. Well, when we wrote it, it was a process. We went through a number of drafts as we were doing it, and part of the evolution of the book was when we did it, we said, oh, it'd be really great to get some interviews so we could get other people's point of views and get their insight, which would also give the actors, besides our point of view, it would give you an agent's point of view or a photographer or a director. And each and every one of them, even like the aspiring actor, would tell you how they went about it. So then that gives an actor who's going to read this book, oh, I see, this is how this person did it, and this was their journey. I mean, there's a fabulous story in there of this mom and her son and how he ended up on the national tour and on Broadway and Billy Elliot. And because there's so many new guys out there going, well, how do I get started? You see, this gives people, oh, this is a road. This is a way we can go about doing this. So those interviews came as so we could get other people's insight to add into our book. In this day and age, we're definitely in a social media time, so it's totally okay if you guys, check out casting directors who have Facebook pages or on Instagram or Twitter. I'm not telling you that they'll all respond because it's an individual, personal thing for each casting director. I love it when actors reach out to me. I have a From Start to Stardom Facebook page, so you can totally go there and check it out. I also, through my company, my casting company, we have londonstroudcasting.com on our website, and you can check that out and see us through that social media. You can go to FromStartToStardom.com, which is our website, and we have blogs on there. You guys can even write me a question if you have some questions you want answered and burning question you to go, what do I do about this? And there's great articles, and there's story about me and how I got started and some really goofy pictures of when I was young, and I look adorable. Anyways, but that's where you can go.